Okay, so now take your front and back side strips. You've got 4 of those from your 5x5 strip, and we're going to glue one to each side of the front and back pieces. So with the shiplap side facing you, apply glue along each side. Like that, and then put that back down on your work surface and attach a strip to each side so that the bottom of each piece is flush. You've got a nice straight line along there, and then press it against the side, pressing this flat at the same time. Do the same on the other side. Use your spare cocktail stick as normal to remove any excess glue. And then what I'm actually going to do is weigh that down again with a couple of books, but just on this central panel, and that's just to keep that central bit flat so that they will dry flat against the side. And I can just push that to one side and do the same with the front panel. And you'll have a little bit of strip overlapping at the top where the roof slants, but we'll be cutting that away, so don't worry about that. Okay, put that piece flat on your work surface. Press the strips against the side. Squeeze them into place. Same on the other side. Make sure your bottom edges are nice and flush. Remove that excess glue. Like that. This one isn't sort of sitting up as much, but I'm going to weigh that one down as well. Just again on the inside of the panel, not covering the legs, or the side strips rather. And that can then be left to dry. Okay, so once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, take your craft knife and just follow in the line of the roof there, snip away the top of that side strip. Now it's 5mm, so it's quite tough, so try and come a little bit closer. Just sort of try and work through it with your craft knife, just the tip. So you're just sort of cutting through it in sections like that. And there. Like that, and then we can just sand away. Just straighten it up a bit. We can sand that then when we've done all of the corners. So do that on each piece. Make your line of where you want to go, and then start slicing through. Once you've cut the corners off, you can just sand along to make sure you've got a nice straight line. Do that on both pieces. Okay, we're now going to fit the external door surround, and I advise in the cutting list to cut these pieces after construction of this front panel, and that's just because if you've sanded a little bit extra along the top of the door there, you'll need a slightly longer strip. So always measure and then cut, and that needs to be exactly that length there for the vertical strips and the horizontal strips, so they just fit nice and snugly in between. Measure your top one first and get that fit correct, and then cut the bottom one exactly the same size as the top, because these pieces at the bottom may sort of dry slightly open. So if that's exactly the same length as that piece, you'll know that you've got a square door, and then we can pull all that together once we glue it into place. So we're going to begin by drilling holes for our door. So begin by making a pencil line 2mm from the short edge of the strip, and in inches that is 5/64 of an inch, and then turn the piece and make a pencil mark 1.5mm from this, what will become the back edge. That's 1/16 of an inch. So along that 2mm line, make a little pencil mark there like that, and that's where we'll drill our hole. And the same there. So it's 2mm in from this short edge of the strip and 1.5mm from the long back edge. And then when we put this piece into place, the hole, the edge that it's nearest to, will be on the inside, so that our door will sit sort of back. But I'll say that again when we actually get to it. So apply glue along the inside edges of the door opening, the two long edges first, like that, and then place the piece down on your work surface and attach those two vertical surrounds. And then I've got a spare piece of just 5x5 strip here that I'm just going to use to really push that against the side of that door. So have a piece of strip handy before you start gluing, and put the other side piece into place. Make sure it's right up against the top, and same thing again, use your spare strip to really push that in. Make sure the sides are flat down on your work surface, so that the piece is going right to the back of the wall inside. Press it all together. Just slide that along to dry. I just realised we didn't actually drill the holes into the surrounds, so I've got a 0.75mm drill bit in there, so just the smallest drill bit you've got, just to make a hole big enough to take a dressmaking pin. So drill the hole, keeping your drill upright. And then take one of the pieces, and like I say, with the hole nearest to the back, apply glue first along the top edge of the door opening. My glue's starting to dry out in the sun there. And then just put a little piece at either end of the strip, a little blob rather. So the hole is towards the back edge of the piece. I'm putting it in like that. So slot that in, push it up to the top, and again you can use your spare piece of strip here just to really push that up into the corners. Press it down at the same time so we've got a nice flat edge inside. And there as well. And then have a piece of masking tape ready now. Just cut a piece that's just sort of as wide as the shed, it doesn't have to be exact. Stick that on the edge of the desk and then apply glue to each end of the bottom horizontal surround, and again so that that hole is towards the back edge of the piece, attach that along the bottom. And you want to make sure you've got a nice flush edge along there, so you can use your spare stick again and press it upwards, and then just press that against it. Press it down at the same time so we're getting that nice flat edge, like that. And this is where it helps having really big hands like mine, because you can stretch across. And then holding that together like that, bring in your piece of masking tape, just stick it to that side first, pull it together quite tightly and then stick it down on that side, and that will keep these two side pieces together while this bottom piece is drying. Just curl that under, and that can then be left to dry. Okay, we're now going to fit the external window surrounds and window divides. So just have a couple of pieces of 3x3mm strip or 1/8 of an inch strip handy, and we'll be using these as spacers. Doesn't matter what length they are, just need one that goes there and one we'll be using at the side there. So begin by applying glue along the top edge of the window opening, again to about a 3mm 1/8 of an inch thickness, but that doesn't have to be measured or be exact. Now what we're doing with these pieces is making a sort of lip to go on the inside where we're going to attach the perspex to, or the acetate. So we need a 3mm overhang, and to make sure we've got that, we're going to use this strip. So push it up against the top of the window, but try not to get any glue on it because we don't want it to stick. And then you want this top piece to come down to the bottom of that, so that you've got a straight edge along the spacer and the top of your, or the bottom of your top strip. And then you can use this side piece as a 3mm 1/8 of an inch spacer there, and the edge of that top piece should come to the edge of that piece. So we've got a 3mm overhang then at either side, and just press that down and then just quickly and carefully remove the spacer so that doesn't get stuck, and then you can press that down a bit harder. Like that, and then use your spare cocktail stick to remove the excess glue, where we can sand this away as well once we're done. And then take the vertical surround, just apply a little bit to the end, and again apply a little bit down the side of the window there, overlapping at the bottom by the 3mm 1/8 of an inch. And that piece as well can be put into place so that the side of it is flush with the end of that top surround. Press it down, press those together as well, and then we can do the same thing again over a bit on the other side, like that. A little bit at the end of the piece there, and then that one can go into place as well. And then apply glue finally along that bottom part of the window. and I'll just put a little bit on each of those ends there as well, and then the final piece can be put into place. And if you need to sort of pull any of the bits out to match, then do that, and that'll square everything off. Press that all down. If you find any of the bits are sort of trying to stick upwards, then you can use a bit of tape or some clamps just to hold them down until the glue begins to take. Just getting rid of the excess glue here. I'm sure this little squirrel thinks I'm building a house for her. Move back! Come on! Okay. Move that glue. And then if I turn the piece over, you can see that we've created a lip around the inside edge there. And that's where our acetate will sit, and then we'll create another frame which we'll then push over the top to sandwich it between the two frames. So we're now going to add the window divides. So I just want to get rid of that glue on the inside of that lip. And then take your ruler, and you want to measure from the sort of outside edge of the window, so where we sort of made the cut for the opening, and you want to make a measurement 46 millimeters. That's 1 13/16 of an inch from that edge. So just do a little pencil line on that sort of lip in there, and the same at the top, 46 millimeters or 1 13/16 of an inch, and do the same again at the other side and at the top as well, like that. And we're going to place the divide so they sit centrally between those lines. Okay, so apply a little dot of glue to the end, to each end, and then just slot that into place. Hopefully you've got a nice tight fit. Make sure the centre of the strip is in line with those marks, like that, and then you can press that down so it's flat, making sure it stays where it should, and then you can attach the remaining one. Might be a bit too tight, but I'm going to persevere and just press that into place, because it's better if it's tight than too loose, because it won't stay in. And then remove the excess glue. So that can now be left to dry, and I've got another one that I did earlier which is now dry, and then once it has completely dried you can just use your fine grade sandpaper and sand over the top of it just to flatten out any sort of joins. Like that, and you can sort of just create a very slight chamfer around the edges of the frame there, just because it looks quite square or quite sharp. So just hold your sandpaper at an angle and sweep it along the edge of the strip. It just makes for a more sort of finished look. And down the sides as well. Like that. Sand across your divide so you've got no sort of ridges at the top and bottom. And then you want to take a slightly harder sandpaper. I've got my 180 here, and we want to create a chamfer along this top edge, and that's just where our roof will come. So just again sweep along. It doesn't have to be, you know, extremely deep. We just want to chamfer that off a little bit. And the roof will then be able to sit at the proper angle. We'll just do that a few times to start, and then if when we come to fit the roof we find that it needs more, we can do more. Okay, so next is to glue together the floor panels. So just apply glue on one long edge. On your flat surface, press those together so the edges of each piece are flush. So you've got a nice straight line along there and there. Press them together. I'm going to use some masking tape to hold those together. So pull it quite tightly. Piece across the middle, and then turn that over and do the same on the other side. Okay, and you can pop that on a flat surface and just pop a piece of kitchen towel and some books on top, just so it dries nice and flat. Okay, so we're now going to start gluing the structure together, and to help with this, because it is quite a large piece, I've got this old wooden tray. Now you might have a wooden box, or you might actually have a proper gluing jig, and this is just to keep everything square when you're working on larger pieces. So let's begin by applying glue to the left hand side of our side piece, and that's as where the inside is sort of facing towards us. So apply glue along that edge, and then this is going to sit just to this side, so to the inside of this corner post. So we want to sit it right on the inside like that, so the post will sort of be the overlap on the outside of the shed. So press it against that edge like that, and press it down just until the glue begins to take. I'm going to bring in the jig, and then I want to sit this around the corner of the jig, and then I can press it together, and I know that I've got a nice square join. And I actually just want to put some masking tape around the edge just to hold it all together. I'm going to just bring that round that side, making sure that the jig is pushed right into that corner join. Just have a peek round to make sure I've still got the 5mm overhang there, which I have. So the side piece is right on the inside of the post. Now I'm going to put another piece around the top there. Oops. Glue it on the inside of the door. Pull that round quite tightly. And this is just to hold this corner in place at the moment. We'll use lots more tape when we glue the other pieces in. So just let that dry off for a moment. Leave it there against the jig. And then we can attach the floor. So we now want to apply glue to one short edge and one long edge of this piece. Like so. And then with everything flat on your work surface, push it into place so it's going right into that corner. There will be an overhang there, that's fine. That will be for our other side panel or acetate sheet if you decide to go along that route. Press everything together, making sure that the floor is flat on your work surface there, especially behind the door lip, because we'll be adding another 1.5 there and we still want our door to open. Press that corner into place from the outside. Like that. Okay, now let's just try and lay it down. And we're now going to apply glue along the edge of the floor and along the edge of the side piece, and then we can attach our back panel like that. And it's probably easier if we stand that up again. And the same as with the front, we want this edge here to be on the inside of that side strip. So glue it into place so you're sort of looking at it from the other side, and then your side panel will sit again on the inside. That, and I've just moved it out of place. Make sure the whole thing is staying flat on your work surface as well, and push the side of the floor against the back panel as well. And I'm just sort of pushing and waiting for the glue to start to take. Make sure the floor is going into the corner on that inside edge. I think that's moved out a little bit. So as the glue begins to take, just keep checking that everything's staying where it should, and you've got a little bit of time to manoeuvre if not. Okay, so I just want to turn this onto its front edge, just really carefully, and I want to get some masking tape around these sides and around the bottom there, and just really hold it all together. So I'm going to make a start around that bottom edge where you can see this back panel is trying to bow away from the floor there. So press it on there, pull that tightly around. Like that. Some more around there. This is another one of those times when I'll say you can never use enough masking tape. And I'm just going to turn that again and press that floor against the tape. Press it all together still. And lay it down again. And I'm going to put some over that edge. I'm just realising that I can't get that into shot. Just put some over the side as well, pulling it all tight, pulling everything together as you go. pieces around there. I'm not really happy with that side join, so I'm going to put another piece of tape right around that top edge. And keep checking, and every time you see a gap, put a piece of tape around. Okay, so that's now got plenty of tape on it, so I'm going to leave this to dry overnight and carry on in the morning. Okay, we're now going to fit the internal door surround. So turn the shed onto its side there, and first of all take the horizontal surround and apply glue on one side. Like that. And then that bit sits so it's right on the inside of the two external door frame sides. So put it into place along the top there, and then just use your thumb to make sure that it's completely flush with the surround beneath it. So you've got a nice straight edge along there. And press that down. And then first of all just check the length of the vertical surround to make sure that the top of it is flush with the top along there. And you can again apply glue to one side of this. Glue that piece into place. Again making sure so that it's flush with that external vertical door surround. Otherwise we'll have problems opening and closing the door. Press that into place. And the same thing again with the remaining surround, make sure it's level at the top. That one can be glued into place as well. Making sure it's flush again. And I've got a bit of a gap there where the other door surround is just slightly higher than the wall, but that's okay. Just press it down as much as you can. So that's the internal door surround. And now we're going to put in place the runners to create a lip here along the front, or a groove rather, for our removable panel to sit into. I'm going to lay that down again. So again, apply glue, and this is the longest strip that's going sort of on the inside of the shed. You've got two strips to make this sort of slot. So it's the longer of the strips that we're attaching first. And you want it to be right down to the floor. And like I say, right along the edge of where those two pieces join. Press that down. Remove the excess glue, otherwise the slot will be jammed, we won't be able to get the panel into it. And then turn it over, and we're going to fix one on this other side as well, and in exactly the same place, so down to the floor and just on the inside of that corner strip, so just along the line where the two pieces join. Press that down. And then again remove the glue. Remove the glue from the other side as well. Like that. And then the shorter of those two, if you're going to be using a wooden panel, this one attaches right to the front of that side strip. So again down to the bottom of it, and it's shorter at the top so that our roof will sit nicely, but right to the front of the strip so you've got a nice flush edge along here. I'm just going to get a bit more glue. Apply glue to the strip. Press it into place, making sure again you've got that flush edge. Now we're just sort of making a bit of a runner there for the panel to slide in and out of, and if you're using acetate it'll be a bit thinner, so you can place this front strip further back. So just cut off a little strip of your acetate, and you can actually sit it in front of that back strip and then apply the front strip, not tight up against it as you'll have sort of trouble lifting it in and out, but just this one just back a little tiny bit, otherwise your acetate will rattle around in the slot there. Okay, and then apply the other one to the other side. So the bottom, it's at the bottom of that strip. Again, nice flush edge along the front. Like that. I'm just going to run the cocktail stick along there again. Make sure there's no glue in the runner. And then if you just get a bit of your 1.5mm wood, 1/16 of an inch, that should just slide in and out of there, and then that will be our panel. That will be how our panel slides in and out. So check that you're in the right place before your glue has dried, and if you need to you can move it, but if you follow that rule of putting it right along the front of this side strip, then you'll have enough room in the middle there, the 1.5. Just check that end as well. Yep, that's fine. So we can now make our panel, and if you're using the acetate you can just cut your piece of acetate to size. So we're going to start by gluing together the removable panel halves, as we've done for sort of all of our wall panels. So apply glue along one long edge, like that. Lay it flat on your surface, press them together so the sides here and here are flush. Squeeze them together, and then again we'll use some masking tape to pull those together. On both sides. As you can see, it's already trying to curl upwards. And then pop pop that to one side to dry. You can just pop a book on top. I've got a panel here that I made earlier, which is now dried. So just test it in the runners, as it slides in nice and smoothly and goes down to the bottom like that. If not, you can just shave a little bit off each corner, off each side, sorry. Okay, we're now going to add the shiplap strips to the removable panel. So start by slotting the panel into place, down to the bottom, and then take your pencil and just draw a line down each side, just to the side of that strip. The same on the other side. And then take the panel out. And then when we come to fit our strips, we know they've got to stay within those two lines, and they will just be slightly shorter. I've just made them probably about 0.5 millimetre shorter, so sit them centrally as well in between those lines, and you'll have a little bit extra at each end of the strip. So exactly the same thing again. Apply the glue to your panel. Spread that evenly, just in between those lines, like that. And I've got my masking tape handy to stick down the strips once they're in place. So start at the bottom. You've got a nice flush edge along the bottom there, making sure you're in between your lines. And I went through again with these and done a bevel on one long edge, which is at the top of each piece, as we did all the way round. And I'm just leaving the tiniest little gap in between each, just a hair's width. Okay, I'm just going to start to stick those down now. And with this you'll just have one strip that slightly overhangs at the top, which we'll cut off once everything's dry. Side. And then just apply more glue as you need to, and continue to the top. Final strip along the top there, which slightly overhangs, like I say. Another bit of tape. And then once again I'm going to cover that over with some heavy books. Put a piece of kitchen towel on first, put the books on, and then leave that to dry. Okay, while that removable panel is drying, we're going to add the internal embellishments, and we'll begin with the plain wall, which is the back wall. So turn it over like that, and then I've got this little half-sized ruler here, which is handy when you're sort of making measurements inside pieces like this. So we're going to begin by making a measurement 6 millimeters from the top of this side panel. So get your ruler in there, and that's 6 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch. And then we want to make that same pencil mark on the inside edge of this longest runner here. 6 millimeters again, 1/4 of an inch, just like that. And then join those two up. Put the ruler just below the pencil marks, and that will allow for the thickness of your pencil. Like that. A bit up that side, but I know it's the bottom line that is the correct one. And then I've given the measurements for these by measuring from my shed, so you might just want to check before you sort of put the glue on that you've got a nice tight fit. If it's a bit too big, you can just shave a little bit off one of the ends. but do just check, because if I've put this panel further in or further out than you, or one of these runners, then we'll have different measurements, so it'll only be out by a tiny fraction, but do just check before applying the glue. And then we're going to put this so it sits just below that pencil line. I'm just gluing that in there, just below the line, so I can just about see the line. Press that down. And remember to use your spare cocktail stick to remove the excess glue. Just moved it out of the way. I should be giving the inside an extra sand as well, because the glue's not properly dry. I'm just moving it while I'm trying to remove it, so I'll just leave it for now and sand that away later. And then you want to take the central piece and again apply glue to one side, and then this sits over that central joint. You've already got your measurement there for you, so just press that down, and there will be a little bit overhanging at this top edge. Don't worry, because we'll snip that away. And I've just done that because it's easier to snip it away once the piece is in place than actually try and shape the piece before you attach it. When you're sort of doing angled pieces, it's quite difficult to get it exactly right. So this is the easiest way to do that. And then the final two angled pieces. First of all, make a pencil mark 20mm or 3/4 of an inch away from that central, the edge of the central moulding, and the same on the other side, like that. And then we need to put a mitre in one end of these angled pieces, and you might have a mitre block and saw, so you can use that, but I'm going to use this handheld mitre cutter, and these are really handy. I use this a lot, and it doesn't matter which way you do it, so just put it in. And this is the 3mm strip, so, and it cut that very easily, as you can see. I wouldn't go any more than a 3mm strip with these. If you try and cut a 5mm one in it, or 13/64 of an inch, it splits the wood. So 3mm is about as much as I'd go in there, and then I'd use my mitre block and saw for anything thicker. So that's going to sit there, so the angle is straight on that line, and again we'll have a bit of an overhang which we'll remove once the glue has dried. So you want to apply glue to the mitred end, and then work out which way down it'll be sticking, and then apply glue to that side. Like that. And then just so the point is just in front of that little pencil mark we made. Again, press that down. And I've got a couple of knots in the wood here, which I actually really like because that will look really good inside the shed. If I was doing furniture, I'd be careful not to use a piece of wood with knots in it. But for this, I've used wood that's got knots in it and splits, using up all my little pieces of strip wood for these sort of things. So always keep your offcuts, because they do come in handy. That one as well. That'll go there, so I need to apply glue to that side. So the point is just in front of the pencil line. The mitre is completely flat against that strip, and then press that into place. been using my glue remover to apply glue. Use the other end of that. Under there as well. And then we'll leave those to dry before we trim them off. And we'll turn it over and we'll do the other end. So again, with your small ruler, if you have one, get in and make your 6mm, 1/4 of an inch pencil mark from the top of that side piece. Just there. And again on this side. So just on the inside of that runner. And again, measure your pieces first, just check that they fit. So attach these ones into place. In there. And then just to check that that's straight along there, you can use your ruler. So place it alongside the door side, and that will create a straight line. You can just push it into place. It's just below the pencil mark again. Press that down. Just below the pencil mark. I'll just use my ruler to square that up. Like that. Same in the middle again with that central one. It goes right over that central join. Again, there'll be a little bit extra hanging over at the top. And then we're going to cut the mitre join again in the two angled pieces. Always close these down when you're not using them, because that's a very sharp blade in there. Do that one as well. You just lock them off like that. Really handy little tool. Oh, and then just do the 20mm, 3/4 of an inch pencil mark again, and that side as well. Apply glue to the cut and then to one side. I was going over there first, but I put the glue on the wrong side, so I'll come this way. And again, so the point's just in front of your little pencil mark there. And then the remaining one. That's going like that, so the glue will be on there. Press that down. And then while they're drying, we'll turn over and just trim off the excess at these ends. So I'll start with the middle one and just begin by making a faint score, back a bit, along the line of the roof that way, just like that. And then just with the sort of very tip of your craft knife, you can just sort of begin sort of slicing into that strip. Like that. Try not to cut into the roof as you're doing it. And we can sand that off as well. And just slightly turn it there. That sun is bright. And then do the same the other side. So make a line to follow the line of the roof. And then just begin snipping through like that, and do the same with these other two pieces. So just line across there. I actually want to just support that while I'm cutting into it. You can still see what I'm doing there. And then start snipping through. To get close to the actual wall there. There. And then do the same on this side, and then by that time the other mouldings will be dry and you can do the same again up there. That concludes part 2 of this tutorial. Please join me in part 3.